I stood at the doorway, heart pounding as her sister sneered, "You're just her boyfriend, not family." For over a year, I swallowed the sting of those words until one Saturday, coffee in hand and boxes piled high, I silently proved my worth with a single unspoken act. Every family gathering felt like walking on eggshells, the air in the dining room growing cold the moment I stepped through the door. From the clink of silverware to the hum of polite conversation, there was an invisible barrier between me and the rest of the table, one I'd come to recognize all too well. First, there was her sister's cutting glare, a quiet reminder that I was never more than just the boyfriend articulated by her offhand comments about where I belonged or didn't. Second, I noticed the shift in everyone else's posture, my girlfriend's parents exchanging awkward glances, cousins leaning away as if afraid their warmth might spill over to me, and childhood friends offering polite smiles that never reached their eyes. Third, beneath each forced laugh and strained anecdote, I felt the weight of unspoken judgment pressing against my chest. Yet amid the frost, I discovered my own resilience. I learned to arrive early, greeting each relative with a calm greeting that betrayed none of the tension brewing beneath my skin. I mastered the art of listening attentively, allowing others to speak first, so that by the time my turn came, I'd already earned a fraction of their respect, and I began to plant small seeds of kindness, offering help with clearing plates, sharing funny stories about my girlfriend that made her family laugh, and finding subtle ways to show that my intentions were genuine. These three strategies, poise, patience, and consistent goodwill, became my silent framework for navigating each chilling dinner table, a quiet testament to the strength of character I hoped would eventually thaw their doubts. By maintaining this delicate balance of humility and quiet confidence, I slowly chipped away at the icy veneer, setting the stage for a moment of unexpected breakthrough that would change everything. Sometimes the quietest voice speaks the loudest, and I discovered this truth the hard way when I chose silence over argument. In those early weeks of awkward family dinners, I made 3 conscious decisions. First, to listen twice as much as I spoke. Second, to control my reactions rather than letting my emotions control me. And third, to invest my energy into small acts of kindness that would speak on my behalf. At every gathering, I resisted the urge to snap back when her sister's cutting remarks cut through the chatter. Instead, I leaned in, offering a patient nod or a knowing smile, silently signaling that I wasn't deterred. By listening intently, truly hearing the undercurrents of judgment and exclusion, I learned what unsettled her family the most, not my presence, but the threat that I might belong there. Next, by keeping my composure whenever barbs flew, I demonstrated self-control and inner strength. While they bristled at my silence in my mind, I was crafting a quiet narrative of confidence, one that would only gain power as it remained unspoken. Finally, I channeled my frustration into thoughtful gestures, refilling her mother's iced tea without a word, offering my jacket when the air conditioning bit too sharply, and catching stray items off the floor before anyone tripped. Each of these unannounced courtesies chipped away at the wall of suspicion they'd built around me. What happened next was unexpected. Silence, when wielded with intention, became a mirror reflecting the family's own behavior back at them. Their barbs started to fall on empty air, losing their bite. My quiet goodwill created cognitive dissonance. How could someone so calm, so respectful be treated as an outsider? And in that friction, a subtle shift began. Her sister's once sharp gaze softened, not in apology, but in curiosity. She wondered what I was hiding behind my composed exterior. The rest of the family, too, found themselves intrigued by my unspoken challenge. I wouldn't fight fire, but with water steady, persistent, impossible to ignore. By embracing silence, I built a powerful tension that begged resolution without ever raising my voice. I kept the secret of my strategy close, revealing nothing about my intentions, even as I watched their attitudes thaw imperceptibly. And while my patience felt like an uncertain gamble, I knew the payoff would come at just the right moment. In the end, it wasn't my words, but my quiet consistency that set the stage for a breakthrough they would never see coming. That Saturday morning, I woke before dawn, the sky still inked with stars, as I loaded my old pickup with moving boxes, bubble wrap, and a fresh pot of coffee, just in case she needed a pick-me-up. I arrived at her apartment half an hour early, parking by the curb and stepping out into the cool September air, my breath visible in soft white clouds. The building's loading dock was eerily quiet, and I felt that familiar twinge of nervous anticipation. Would she really answer the door? Would her sister show up to judge me again? But I reminded myself of why I was there: to help, not to argue, and I knocked firmly. When the door swung open, she stood there in jeans and an oversized sweater, hands tucked into her pockets, surprise flickering in her eyes. "I didn't think you'd actually come," she said, voice low. I flashed my trademark smile and handed her a steaming cup of coffee, saying, "Only I promised, didn't I?" Then I stepped inside and got to work. For the next 4 hours, until the sun climbed high overhead, I carried heavy furniture down narrow hallways, wrestled with stubborn dresser drawers, and tied boxes securely in the truck bed. I offered no complaints, even when my arms ached and sweat soaked my shirt. Instead, I quipped about my own moving nightmares, hoping to lighten her mood. When she paused on the landing to watch me hoist a couch, her lips twitched as though she wanted to tease me but held back. And every time she glanced my way, I caught a hint of respect in her gaze, no longer masked by impatience. Between trips, I refilled her coffee mug without being asked, and when a stray picture frame teetered on the edge of a shelf, I caught it before it fell, setting it gently aside. Even the simplest acts, a quiet offering of help, an unspoken promise to stay the course, began to erode the wall of doubt she'd built around me. As the last box landed with a soft thud in her new living room, she wiped her forehead and looked around at the half-empty room that was now somehow brighter. I leaned against the doorframe, hands on hips, and waited. She stepped forward, her voice softer than I'd ever heard. "I owe you an apology," she said, eyes downcast. In that moment, the moving day became more than just labor. It became proof that actions speak louder than words, and that respect once earned is impossible to ignore. That moment arrived just as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across her new living room floor. We had moved the final box into place, and for the first time that day, I allowed myself a deep breath. Her sister stood there, arms folded, lips pursed in a way I recognized from countless awkward dinners. I could almost trace the shock flickering in her eyes as she realized her offhand assumption had been tested. "I didn't think you'd actually show," she muttered, voice barely audible, but heavy with unspoken surprise. The silence that followed felt charged like the calm before a storm of emotions we both needed to weather. I looked at her coffee, still sweat-beaded in my hand from earlier, and realized this was my moment. Without hesitation, I let my next words ripple through the quiet room like a pebble on still water. "Yeah," I said, softly leaning against the doorframe. "I'm just her boyfriend, remember?" And in that single sentence lay every ounce of respect, every ounce of commitment, every ounce of character I possessed. It wasn't a boast or a challenge. It was a quiet declaration that actions speak louder than assumptions. For a heartbeat, she stared at me, jaw slack and eyes wide, as though she suddenly perceived a stranger she barely knew. But that stranger was me, steady, reliable, and unwavering in my loyalty to the woman who mattered most. In the hours and weeks that followed, I noticed the subtle shift in her posture and in her speech. She stopped peppering our family gatherings with cold remarks and instead offered nods of acknowledgement. She began to ask me for help with small tasks, as if testing whether my kindness was a fluke. And when I arrived ready to assist without complaint, she offered a genuine smile in return. That sentence had woken something in her, a recognition that respect isn't a gift, but an earned reward. My approach wasn't about proving her wrong or winning an argument. It was about demonstrating integrity through service. It was a lesson I'd learned from my own parents, who taught me that the most powerful truths are often spoken in silence. By refusing to meet hostility with hostility, I created a space where kindness could flourish. By choosing humility over pride, I allowed respect to grow organically like a seed sprouting in fertile soil. And in doing so, I transformed a barrier of doubt into a bridge of genuine connection. That afternoon remains one of the most significant moments of my life, proof that one simple sentence backed by countless acts of goodwill can change perceptions forever. From that day on, I wasn't just her boyfriend in name, but a trusted ally in the heart of her family. And it all started with that one line. I knew that true respect would never be handed to me on a silver platter. It would be chiseled out of perceptions quietly and patiently. After that Saturday revelation, nothing in me changed. I was still the same supportive partner, but everything around me shifted imperceptibly. In the weeks that followed, I adopted 3 guiding principles to remind everyone that respect is earned, never demanded. First, consistency, showing up not only when invited, but where I could be helpful, volunteering to host our first holiday brunch at my place, washing dishes before anyone whispered thanks, greeting every relative by name and asking about their lives, so that each small act became a thread stitching me into the fabric of their family. Second, humility, choosing to listen first, speak second, ceding priority to my girlfriend's grandmother at church events, letting her have the last piece of pie at family dinners, and acknowledging even the most minute advice her sister offered with genuine gratitude. And third, patience, resisting the urge to point out past slights when a new insult surfaced, instead offering a sincere smile and moving on, giving people the space to realize how automatic their warmth had become. Eventually, I began hearing murmurs that surprised me. Her aunt complimenting my patient's cousins, asking if they could recruit me for their community projects, and marauding childhood friends seeking my cooking tips. Invitations that would have felt impossible months before. The sister who once labeled me a peripheral outsider now looked at me with a newfound quiet respect. She paused before snapping sarcasm, and sometimes she even included me in family jokes. It struck me that this transformation wasn't a result of an ultimatum or a dramatic confrontation, but a testament to silent perseverance and the power of lived integrity. I realized that respect grows where kindness is deeply rooted, and that to demand it with words alone is to sow only resentment. Instead, I nourished our relationships through deeds, doing the dishes without complaint, sharing stories that made them laugh, being the first to lend a hand when moving boxes or decorating the house. By honoring them without expectation of reciprocation, I cultivated an environment where respect could blossom authentically. In every nod of acknowledgement and every genuine smile in my direction, I heard the quiet refrain respect had been earned. And in that gentle victory, I discovered the truest form of acceptance, one that springs not from assertion, but from unwavering character. It was a lesson I treasure every day, proof when you choose persistence over protest and empathy over ego, you can reshape the coldest hearts. This proves power of earning respect instead of demanding it. That evening, just as I was about to sink into the couch with a cold beer after the longest workday of the week, my phone buzzed unexpectedly. It was her, my girlfriend, telling me to call her when I got home. My heart skipped a beat. Her family rarely extended that invitation after a tense visit. When I walked through the door 10 minutes later, she was already perched on the arm of the sofa, her face alight with something I hadn't seen in weeks' relief. She patted the seat beside her and took a deep breath before speaking. "You know, my sister said something today," she began, her voice unusually quiet. "She told me she's been awful to you, that she judged you without giving you a chance, and that she was wrong." The words hit me like a cool breeze after a humid afternoon, unexpected but unmistakably fresh. I reached out and took her hand, urging her to keep going. She described how her sister and my girlfriend had sat in the kitchen after everyone else had left, talking in hushed tones over leftover chicken salad. She said she watched you working your tail off in that hot apartment, moving boxes, carrying furniture, tying up bubble wrap, all with a smile on your face. My girlfriend continued. And she realized she never saw the effort, she only saw the label boyfriend, not the person beneath it. I listened, picturing my own hands blistered from lifting couches at dawn, my muscles screaming, yet my spirit steady, wondering if this confession was the tipping point I'd waited for. My girlfriend told me how her sister admitted she'd felt guilty for every sarcastic remark, every judgmental quip about not being family. She confessed she'd come to respect my commitment and realized that respect had nothing to do with titles, it had everything to do with character. My chest swelled with a mix of pride and vindication, not because I'd won something trivial, but because someone's mind and heart had genuinely changed. Then she said, the best part, she wants to start over with you if you'll let her. Those 8 words hung in the air, sweet and fragile like a promise threaded from broken glass. In that moment, I understood that the most powerful apologies are not shouted across tables, but whispered between sisters, carried home like the softest truth. And as I pulled my girlfriend close, I realized this chapter of our journey had shifted forever. The sister who once treated me as an outsider was now an ally in disguise, and our story took a new turn. One defined not by cold dinners or cutting remarks, but by the healing power of confession. That afternoon, after weeks of stony silences and cold dinners, I realized kindness could confront ego in a way harsh words never could, and I set out to prove it by continuing 3 simple, consistent actions. First, I chose empathy over pride, quietly noticing the subtle tensions in the room and offering genuine compliments to her sister, thanking her for inviting me and acknowledging the effort she put into hosting rather than resisting her silent barbs. Second, I maintained unwavering support for my girlfriend in front of everyone, expressing pride in her achievements, her promotion at work, her dedication to volunteering her latest art project, so that my admiration was visible without overshadowing, and it highlighted my respect for family bonds. Third, I refrained from recounting past grievances or pointing out slights. Instead, whenever I sensed a surge of ego-driven dismissal, I simply smiled, lent a helping hand, or left an encouraging note on her car windshield. Small gestures that cut through defensiveness. Over time, these actions became a silent mirror held up to her sister's ego, reflecting how her own dismissive attitude looked when contrasted with my steadfast kindness. No dramatic confrontation, no raised voice, just the quiet power of integrity in action. One evening, I walked into the kitchen carrying a mound of dishes, and instead of retreating from the unavoidable chore, I rolled up my sleeves and dove in scrubbing plates under warm water until each crystal wine glass gleamed, refusing any offer of help. Her sister paused, spatula in hand, and for the first time I saw a flicker of uncertainty cross her face as she realized my unwavering willingness to serve wasn't a performance, but a genuine expression of respect and solidarity. In that moment, her ego, which had once thrived on belittling me, began to encounter an unassailable truth: you cannot diminish someone who refuses to be diminished, whose actions consistently outshine your doubts and force you to reckon with your own judgment. These subtle but profound changes demonstrated that kindness, when deployed with purpose, isn't a retreat, but a bold confrontation, one that confronts ego by refusing to feed it and instead nurturing an environment where humility can flourish. I learned that the most effective challenges to arrogance aren't verbal battles, but consistent demonstrations of character acts so unassuming they provoke internal reflection rather than defensive retaliation. Ultimately, when kindness confronts ego became the anthem of my relationship with her family, a testament that empathy and perseverance can overcome skepticism, transforming adversaries into allies without ever raising a fist or uttering a threat. And in that journey, I realized kindness isn't just a moral choice, but a strategic force capable of dismantling defenses and rebuilding bridges, one thoughtful gesture at a time. By now, I slip through the front door with the ease of someone who belongs not as a tentative guest, but as family, no longer just her boyfriend. I've been handed the carving knife at Thanksgiving, my name announced alongside theirs, when we toast to health and happiness. My opinion is sought on little things, whether to paint the guest room blue or gray, because they know my taste and trust my judgment. On Sunday mornings, I pour coffee for her mom before reaching for my own mug, and she greets me with a warm, "Good morning, son," without any trace of the old hesitancy. Cousins ask for my help, assembling holiday decorations. Nieces nestle in my lap to hear goofy stories, and even her sister, the one who once scoffed at my presence, asks me to hold the baby while she loads the dishwasher. When the neighborhood block party rolls around, I'm in the group chat planning potluck dishes. They split the cost of farm-fresh ingredients with me, not because I'm a guest, but because I'm part of the crew. I've watched her grandmother fuss over my health, insisting I wear a jacket when the autumn breeze bites, and I reciprocate by sharing my secret hot apple cider recipe. We collaborate on the annual charity drive, pooling ideas and laughter instead of polite nods. During moments of family stress like her dad's surgery last winter, I was the one who biked through snow to pick up pain meds, and her parents called me our rock. Even her old college buddies, once wary of my boyfriend label, now joke that I'll be invited to graduation next spring. I see it in the way they include me in photo albums, how they save me the biggest slice of pie, how her sister pauses before teasing, then grins and nudges me playfully, an unspoken acknowledgement that I've earned my place. In every shared glance, every genuine smile, I feel the transformation. I'm woven into the fabric of their lives, not by assertion, but by steady presence, kindness, and unwavering support. That shift didn't require grand declarations or dramatic ultimatums, only consistent actions that spoke louder than titles ever could. Today, when I join them at the table, I bring more than a date. I carry a sense of belonging we built together, proof that respect and acceptance are cultivated through patience, empathy, and the simple choice to show up again and again as the person you hope they'll welcome home. Today, when I walk through the front door and see her sister meet me with a genuine smile instead of a cold glare, I feel an unexpected rush of gratitude and relief. The ice that once separated me from her family has finally melted. That transformation taught me that respect isn't a medal you demand, but a legacy you build through quiet, consistent actions. I think back to that Saturday morning, arms aching from lifting couches, hands steady while tying boxes, words unspoken yet brimming with intent, and realize those simple gestures spoke more powerfully than any argument ever could. With every refill of her mother's coffee, every offer to clear the table before anyone asked, and every moment spent listening instead of defending, I rewrote the story of who I was in their eyes, from just the boyfriend to a trusted part of their lives. In doing so, I discovered that belonging is earned one thoughtful act at a time, anchored in empathy, humility, and unwavering integrity. If you've ever felt underestimated or overlooked, remember that your character can speak louder than criticism. Let your kindness be your voice, and your consistency your testament. I'd love to hear your own experiences of earning respect and finding acceptance. Share your story in the comments below. If this journey resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life tales that uncover the power of perseverance and compassion. Hit the bell so you don't miss our next video, where we'll explore practical ways to cultivate empathy and strengthen every relationship one small step at a time. Thank you for watching, and never underestimate the power of showing up.